Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of the Vito X DINO podcast. This is episode number 53. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Haspiel. And if you think about it, if this is year 2, we'd be back at issue number 1 or
That's
something.
right.
Like
Sure.
these,
Yeah.
like, so it's 53 slash, no, it's one legacy number 53.
That's right.
Right?
There you go. You're right. There you go.
That's what it is.
So,
So talk about this guy. Bring in
you can
this
see
guy.
we have a new format. We have all windows showing. We're not going to be jumping around like we usually do. And I want to introduce our very special guest for our very first episode of our new year. He is possibly my favorite writer, bar none. I'd say even more so than James Ellroy. I've probably
Take that, Shakespeare.
I've read more of your books than his, so I mean,
That's true.
He is the writer and creator of such books. I have a whole list. I think the easiest thing to say is if you like it, he's written it.
There you go.
Man Birthright, Legion of Superheroes, The Flash. I have a Flash tattoo because of his run on The Flash. Impulse, JLA, Kingdom Come, 52, which, Jesus. Shazam, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, X-Men, Captain America, which we're going to get into. There's a question that I have to, or something I have to tell you about as we talk. Spider-Man, The Avengers, Fantastic Four, Kazar, another big one for me. Like I know not a lot of people don't mention it, but this was the book that puts you on the map, and as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that's when I started getting into everything else. Doctor Strange, an incredible run on Daredevil. Just finished 12 issues of Batman and Robin Year One, which is probably, in a lot of minds, the book of 2025. It's an incredible feat. And let's not forget his creator-owned work: Empire, Irredeemable, Incorruptible, Insufferable. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mark Waid.
Hey, thank you, guys. Follow me around with that introduction wherever you go. Yeah.
I'm happy to.
And we forgot Archie Comics.
I was going to say the Fox, but I knew we were going to bring it up.
That's right. The Fox. We did
bring it up.
The Incredibles. Mr. Steed and Peel, the Avengers. I've been to. I look back and I realize, other than, I think the only thing left on the hit list, the bucket list, would be Lone Ranger or Doc Savage.
Yeah, you did Green Hornet too. Funny enough, Ranger.
Green Hornet too. Yeah. So that's about what's left. I get calls a lot of times for, like, hey, we got the license to this 80s cartoon show. And it's like, this is past my, that's past my expiration day. That's not, like, I wish you the best of luck with your Transformers book or whatever, but it's not my wheelhouse.
We should call you when we do the wacky races, right?
That's exactly. Then do Penelope Pitstop comics. I'm in, sure.
Well, you just said something interesting, which I think is true for a lot of creators, actually, is that wheelhouse, right? Like,
yeah.
What is your era that you still, I feel like a lot of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as a creator, I'm sometimes trying to recapture that feeling of when I was younger and trying to, and in modern terms, whatever, trying to spin it. But what is that for you?
I mean, for me, it is like about 1966 to about 1978, somewhere along in there. Like Firestorm is my cutoff. Like anything before Firestorm is something I loved as a fan. If anything after Firestorm, I give you the best. Glad you enjoy it. Everybody has their arbitrary stuff. I still think of Timberwolf and Chemical King as new Legionnaires. So, but that's the thing. I mean, I'm not like, I just go back there for energy more than actual specific story structure or trying to evoke anything specific, because that is nostalgia land. Like, that is a lot, you've read these books. They're awesome when you're a kid, but they don't have anything relevant to say to the 21st century.
Right.
So the trick, and I think my wheelhouse, is capturing the inventiveness and that certain, like, creative spark of that era without it reading like a nostalgia book. Fingers crossed. It feels, I'm doing my best to make sure everything feels contemporary, but that doesn't mean that there aren't concepts or ideas or characters from comics when I was reading, growing up, that don't, if you just spit polish them some, right, and just sand a few edges off and just make them feel new again, they can feel new.
Right.
One of my favorite. No, I was going to say one of my favorite compliments that I keep getting from my editor Paul Kaminsky is I've never heard of this character before, and now I love him. So that is awesome.
That happened to me with the James Gunn Superman movie. I don't know who Mr. Terrific is. Sorry, I'm not. I'm more of a Marvel fan, and I've heard of him. I don't know what but he was my favorite thing in the movie. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, he was the star of the movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and in a way, was he kind of a de facto Batman? Would you say a little bit the way he operated?
He certainly fulfilled that role. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Never thought of that.
Do you feel that going back to because when you talk about nostalgia, we're also talking about feelings and memories, and that they're better in our memory than they often are when you revisit the material, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, that's a little dated, in spots, right? But I think back then they weren't necessarily writing evergreen stories, right? They were writing monthly stories. Do you feel like have you veered into? I mean, you have definitely written evergreen stories. Do you think about that when you write a monthly comic?
No. The joy of writing a monthly comic it's different than any other structure. And I miss the fact that at Marvel, they don't exist anymore. You're 6 issues or 5 issues and out or whatever. At DC, the trend is always still, can we make them bigger stories? But the joy of doing a monthly book is just being able to do whatever you feel like doing and not worry about constraining it in a certain period of time, right? And also not worrying about if it's a 5-issue miniseries and it's a 5-issue miniseries as a reader going in, you read enough of these things where you kind of know where the beats are going to be, right? And with a monthly book where we're not labeling it chapter 1 of 5, chapter 2 of 5, there's a little more narrative flexibility here where I can surprise you more. I can bring things on. I can shock you because again, I'm not beholden to a specific story length.
I remember reading when you were doing Daredevil, and it felt this way reading it, that sometimes you would create a cliffhanger that you didn't know how they're going to get.
I always do. Dude, I never know how many. I thought it was a bug for a long time. I guess it's a feature, but I like solving puzzles. Yeah. I like that. I like MacGyvering superpowers, right? And so I almost never know what the resolution to this cliffhanger is when I throw it in, because I figure if I don't know, then you can't guess, right? And then we'll all be surprised. Right. So, there are a couple of times, and it's bit me in the ass. There's a couple of times when it's been like, I have 30 minutes to finish the script, and I don't even know where to start. It's just and big sweat coming out of it. But by and large, I managed to find something. Past Mark Waid has left me a breadcrumb somewhere.
Yeah, breadcrumb somewhere. Yeah. Is there a dud in the Mark Waid library?
Dude. First off, anything I ever took for money, always a bad idea. Like, for money. There's a Spider-Man team up book from the 90s that I took because Spider-Man team up, how can this, starring the X-Men, how can this possibly fail? Look, the death of Superman is busy selling 1 million copies. This is going to be great. And of course, then between the time I took the job and the time the book came out, the market cratered. And it is not a finer moment of my career. There's a few out there that just don't.
Now, is this agreed upon by the fans, or is this just you thinking that this was a dud?
I feel it's a dud, and the fact that almost nobody ever brings it up for signing is a pretty good sign too. If you liked it, if you liked it, good for you. I'm not trying to knock it down in that, because I learned that, and you probably have learned that too, right? At store signings or convention signings, you never ever, even if it's a piece of crap that you did, you never look at it and go, "Oh, why'd you buy this?" or "Oh, this is terrible." Anything, because then the person who has it enjoyed it and they feel bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I never run down my own work like that. But there are times. Look, I've written almost 2,000 comic books at this point. There are plenty of, strikeouts and singles out there. Not everything is a double.
All right. So then, two other quick questions, because I'm always getting questions from your answers. One is, you talk about the joy of a monthly book, which I would find to be terrifying. What is daunting? What's daunting about a monthly book? And then what makes a Mark Waid comic? If you could like, what are your trends when you look back at what you do? What do you do?
I think that's a good question. I think from my perspective, and again, this is not necessarily a valid answer because the better answer probably comes from somebody who's reading it. But my feeling is my lane is the moments of joy that I have that are the strongest when I'm writing are the moments that I can take an older character and come up with some new take on them, or something you've never thought of before, or something that I've never thought of before, a little character bit or something, and do something with that. And I think that's probably my wheelhouse. If I can show you something about these characters that are 80 years old that you've never thought about before. Like, I'm having a ball doing Superboy in Action Comics because that's all the adventures of Superman when he's a kid. And he's learning how to do all this stuff. And I started thinking before one issue, I was like, okay, what is it like the first time you get telescopic vision? You must be freaking the hell out.
Yeah.
And so I wrote it, I wrote this thing he's talking about. Yeah, he was standing in a cornfield and suddenly a taxi was about to run him over. And then that night he's in his bedroom and he's looking out the window and a plane is coming straight for the house. And it takes him a minute, like Monpaw can't like sit him down, and he's breathing and he realizes what this thing is. It's telescopic vision. He can see distances, but it never occurred to him that he could. So that's the little tiny stuff that I really enjoy pulling out.
You're reminding me, well, not you're reminding. Last night I read again the first issue of Batman and Robin Year One, and I had forgotten when I first read it that it's 3 weeks after Robin's parents have died.
Yeah.
And like, so and you show his first adventure with a villain, with Two-Face, like you're into these firsts. Like, that sounds really interesting.
I'm really into these firsts. Yeah.
But in terms of finding that extra thing, remember the Pixar movie Up?
Yeah.
And every adult within 10 minutes of the first 10 minutes are weeping because
I can never watch that movie. I've only seen it once because I can never see it again. Yes.
Right. But there's a moment where he's looking through, I think, a family album, and there's more, but you're not thinking about it. But if you're paying attention, you're like, wait, why did they show that? There's something. Yeah. And then the last 10 fucking minutes, you're crying again because of all this other stuff, right? And in a way, that reminds me of your work, is that page that is the page we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. Thank you, Vito. What do you think, Vito? I mean, I'm interested from the outside perspective. Like, what makes you know you're reading a Mark Waid comic?
There was a it's funny, like in the conversation you guys, or in the conversation we're having, but in the
he and I are having, you're not having. Yeah, well, we're leaving you out, but
he's so excited. But I was thinking about Boy Thunder, who you introduced in Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
And just the idea that who this character grows up to be, and then seeing how he became, and I think what it is, and I think a lot of people throw this, and if I learned it from anybody, it's from you. A lot of people will throw that I use heart a lot. Like I try to connect, and I try to get to the heart of someone.
Yeah.
Something that's maybe encouraging them, or something that's important to their development of being a hero or being a villain. And I think that's what it is that I connect with you. Like, I'm a Robin fan. Everybody that knows me knows this. Everybody that's read Stray knows this. So Batman and Robin is so crucial to understanding that character, even with the context of everything that's come before. Like, that's the thing I was wondering is, like, you don't, and I can get this from your writing, you don't have this innate desire to fix something.
No.
You just go in and you just find it. You know what I mean?
Actually, I think that the more fun challenge is to take the cards that are already dealt to you and try to figure out how to make the best hand.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in dropping a safe on something anybody else did, but it's just the fun. Like I said, the fun part is just seeing something that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And like Batman and Robin, the best example is I got lucky in that I realized that the crux of their relationship is Batman is a guy who works alone, and Batman is a solo player, and Batman is not a team player. And Robin comes from a world in which his very life, every single night, depended upon having somebody to catch him.
Right.
He can't work. If he worked solo, he'd be dead.
Right.
And so that would I never heard it articulated that way before. And I'm like, okay, I've now struck gold.
And I mean, you can probably, I feel like you could do that with your Daredevil run, your Legion run, your Shazam, definitely. You point out those little things. And I'm wondering, you mentioned Paul Kaminsky, who is an editor we all three of us have worked with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other editors. How do they know to let you just go? Or how do they know when to rein you in? Because I feel like you can just take off.
I've been pretty lucky. I mean, I think it's the combination of 40 years of experience and the fact that people trust me with these universes and these characters by now, that they pretty much let me do what I feel like I need to do. The only notes I really get from Paul are like, what are the stakes? Because sometimes I will forget to make things as dark and ugly and foreboding as it could possibly be. That's really the big one. I think they enjoy reading these scripts. Again, really lucky.
Do you feel like we're talking about being able to find a take on the character, and when you've been hired to do something, do you feel like part of the beginning process of developing stories is like, all right, who's Robin, who's Batman, who's Superman, who's Thor?
Always.
Just trying to figure out first who they are, so you can figure out what the stories need to be, right?
Yep.
And that to me, all these characters because you also have a great memory for story, and you're a super nerd in that way. It's insane.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But you're able to chip away and get to the core, right? And one of the things I like about your writing style is, sure, there's plot and twists, but you write personalities.
Yeah, totally.
I love the way you can tell with even in caption boxes who's talking, without color coding them. Kind of.
And nobody sounds the same either.
No,
you're a great actor in that way.
Yeah.
You're a really good actor, and I think you'd also probably make a really good showrunner if you ever wanted to dive into TV and run a room. I mean,
in terms of I've run rooms before, not in TV, but I've run rooms before, and it's a blast.
Right.
I'm good at that, and we're going to talk about the stuff I'm not good at in a minute, but because it's not a giant hagiography of me, but yeah, I can hear the thing is I can hear their voices. I know exactly what every one of them sounds like. To me, it's not, I never have to worry about, does this sound like Doctor Strange or not? No, I know this sounds like Doctor Strange, but it is first principles. It always is, okay, Doctor Strange. I'm doing Doctor Strange. I've never really been a huge fan of Doctor Strange. I like him, but what do I know? So I go back and I look at first principles. I look at early Steve Ditko, Stan Lee stuff. I'm not trying to resurrect that form of storytelling. I'm just trying to get at what made that work. And also think about, because I also give this an enormous amount of thought, is what does the world look like to you on a moment-to-moment basis if you have these abilities?
Mm-hmm.
That is a prism that you are looking through that no one else is looking through. How does that, like Doctor Strange is an example. Like he's a surgeon, but a sorcerer. So when I was doing Doctor Strange, I was very mindful of trying to let him do things when I could in a surgical way. Like he doesn't just seal portals. He creates a giant, energy needle that goes and just sews it shut like a suture. He thinks like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part for me. Like if I'm Daredevil, what am I seeing? What am I feeling at this moment when I'm at in a mall or wherever? Can I drive a convertible? No, I can't, because I have radar sense, but glass blocks radar sense. So what are you going to do?
Right.
These are the questions that make my life happy.
And there's always a morality tale. The original Marvel origins, right? Were all morality tales. Versus, I don't think DC early on had origins like that. Not necessarily.
Well, they're all. I mean, all the early Marvel origins are also like buried in hubris, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor. Hulk, I'm going to create the greatest gamma bomb of all time. I mean, every one of them is grounded in, if Reed Richards taking people up into space in a tin can, they're all based in hubris, which is really interesting. And it makes them feel like real characters as opposed to a DC where, yeah, they are icons, but they feel less like human beings.
Well, I always wanted to do an exercise of taking a Twilight Zone, because when I realized about Twilight Zone stories is 90% of the time the protagonist is a fucking asshole, right?
Yes.
They're the one that's going to get screwed, right? Because of their hubris or their whatever, or their desire. But I've always wanted to be after that. Like, what? Just tell me like in John Hughes movies, what happened when they grew up and got out of high school, everything. Like, I always want to do that little fun writing exercise of like, all right, so what happened next? Like, what happened to Burgess Meredith, right? He's an asshole. Okay,
right? He's a total asshole. So you got your glasses broken. Good for you.
Good asshole. For you. Okay, but then I'm kind of curious what happened next. Whatever. Yeah. So it could be a fun little exercise. But and speaking of, if I may, go ahead, Vito.
Yeah, I was gonna it kind of goes along with this, but I'm not entirely sure if it does. And it might be just a out of the blue dopey question, but I'm coming at it from a sincere point of view. How do you build being so prolific? How do you write so many things, especially 2,000 comics, if not more? Like, how do you get to that point? Like, that's very interesting.
I don't know. It's you remember the movie Stand By Me?
Yeah.
And there's that scene where they're walking across the railroad trestle, the bridge, and all of a sudden they hear a train in the background coming, and they're running like hell to get to the end of the bridge before the train runs them over. That's every day of my life. Every day of my life. And it just, I don't know. I mean, some of it is right. Some of it is I love the characters. That makes it easy to be prolific.
Sure.
Some of it is that I know this ride doesn't last forever. That's part of it too. Like, strike while the iron is hot, because I have been incredibly lucky with this guy. Never had to pick up the phone in 40 years, which is insane. And I am grateful for that every day. And then there's also, I would like not to die at the keyboard. It would be nice to maybe bank a little bit of money so that I can have a couple of years.
That's a common theme with me and Dean. We talk about that every now and again.
Yeah. I want to be John Romita, man. I want to be John Romita. I want to be the guy, because when he retired, right? He threw away all his art supplies. He's like, I am never doing this again as long as I live. I'm like, there's a part of me that I want that. I want that. Just the day I turn in my last script, I want to kite my laptop into the sea.
Speaking of never having to make a phone call to get work. One of the things, and this is going to be a topic, and sometimes, like I said, me and Vito will just see what's going on during the week and then talk about that as we do. So this is for all of us, but we all know Paul Kupperberg, right?
Yep.
Recently, he wrote on Facebook, verbatim, he wrote, was it something I said? They say nothing breeds success like success, but this post I came across from 2014 would seem to suggest otherwise. The good reviews and success of Life with Archie, which included Eisner and Harvey nominations, led to me getting exactly 0 subsequent work, including from Archie Comics. Now, I understand everybody's different and some people have bad luck or not, but I do think about that was 2014 that he was being lauded for Life with Archie, and you would think he would get a lot more, and 0 subsequent work. Do you ever get, you talk about this running down the railroad, train, the trains coming. Do you feel like that's a possibility for even someone like you?
Every day I wake up, this could be it. This could be the moment Dan Morris says, I'm going to go do something else, I'm screwed. It's okay. No, you and I both, all three of us, have seen people in comics who thought it was going to last forever. And every one of them is working at Wiener Schnitzel now. Yeah. Right? That is the worst attitude you can have. You've always got to stay hungry. You've always got to keep pushing to make it better. But more than anything, you just got to be a pro.
Yeah. You got to be a pro. And you got to make new things. In other words, you have your independent creator-owned stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you know that in case, you said Dan Mora, and then you've had other great collaborators like Mike Waringo, like
Right. Chris
you
Somney.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris Somney is you got,
Dean
so you
Haspiel.
have,
Right. Yeah.
well, that's kind, but you have like your Kirby's and Ditkos, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying you're Stan Lee, I
No.
mean,
I totally get it. Yes.
but
Yeah.
like you have your great collaborators, and I'm sure you would work in the future. They would work with you again, and then you're gonna have someone else next. Trust me.
I am starting to get, and this makes me feel really old sometimes, but I'm starting to get like artists who are like, I was such a fan of yours growing up. It's so cool to work with you, which is neat, but also makes me feel like 110 years old.
Hey, take that.
Take it though. Yeah.
You earned it, right?
I kind of want to go on like on the tail end of what Dean was saying. This is a really weird question too, but so I'll be 53 this year. Dean will be 59, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mark is 63, I think, right?
Yeah, 63. Cut me open and count the rings. But I think I'm 63. Yes. Yeah.
I think we've Dean and I have touched these characters. I think we're finding a more, I don't want to say success, but more happiness maybe working on our own things. But every now and again we'll throw out an idea like, oh, that would be a good FF mini or whatever. Is it too late for us to dream, so to speak?
No.
Is it too late for to be discovered? I always called myself the oldest rookie, trying to get in, but
oldest working tyro. I don't think it. I mean, here's the thing to remember this. Like, when did I come back to DC? Like 4 years ago? Yeah. Like, what day was Dan DiDio fired? That was, when did I come back to DC?
And Mark, I do want to talk about that after.
Sure.
You and I.
There was a thing that I saw, and it made me, okay, I'll just get into it real quick now.
Yeah,
so
please,
I remember I was going to DC to drop off something. This is years ago, not 4 years ago, but years before that.
Yeah.
And I feel like you might have been having a discussion or a meeting to maybe be the guy or something at DC.
Yeah.
And I forget what year that was. And I remember seeing you, he's like, hey, what's up? But it was like a weird, like, why, like nobody was supposed to know you were there or something. It felt
something like that. Yeah.
Off, right? And then nothing happened. And then it was just like, why is Mark not working? Like, I don't get it, right? So the Mark Waid of that time, like the comics we're getting out of you now at DC, were those like backlog, like you were ready to shoot then with these comics, or would we have had a different like era of Mark Waid? You
would have had a completely different era, because it's not like I've been banking these stories. Because once you tell me I'm never going to be able to write Superman, I don't sit here and think of Superman stories. So why beat myself up?
Sure.
So it was just, I was running the place for like 4 hours. And like the offer was, basically Dan's tired of the job. He wants to move to something else within the company. Why don't you take Dan's job? And that lasted for about 4 hours. And then it just, he was trying to make a deal that nobody else, he didn't bother to tell anybody else at DC, and nobody else at DC was interested in. So, but then it just became, I mean, it was never, I don't think it was a personal thing so much as there's just, again, I don't want to sit here and badmouth. I'm just trying, how do I phrase this? There's a whole string of creators from the 90s who are early 2000s who were deemed unsaleable, or who were deemed like old fashioned or not what we're doing anymore. There was the desire to do such new stuff that we needed to get rid of, unless you're Dan Jurgens or Keith Giffen, anybody else from that era. So I was caught up in that. Like, it's just, I never worked with a publisher who didn't like my work before. It was really weird.
That is weird. And also that's not the same as aging out. You're not talking about aging out.
Right. But my point to get back to around what I was going to say, but think about the fact that like 4 years ago, I was dead I was never going to work at DC as long as Dan was there.
Right.
So, but I dreamed of it. I mean, I dreamed of it every day. Like I really want to be back where I feel like I'm at home, and it happened. And so my feeling is things can turn on a dime.
Yeah. So,
But I do think, but Vito, to your question and Mark's answer, which is really kind about, yeah, sure, anything can happen. I don't think that's so true anymore at a DC and Marvel. I think that there was more possibility.
I think that's true. I don't mean to. I mean, I didn't say anything about the chances of it happening.
Right.
Saying anything can happen. It is harder. It is harder to break in. It is. DC and Marvel are both giving out more exclusive contracts than they have in the past, and so they got to feed those guys first. And I do feel like it's easy. It's a little easier at DC because they're a little more flexible in terms of the style that they're looking. Their editors seem to be a little more flexible in terms of the style, the brand, the look of your book, the feel of it. But it ain't easy. I wish I had some sort of magic answer.
And I say it, and I ask the question, and thank you for answering honestly. And I asked it only because, like, I always like Dean was one of the themes of our podcast is that Dean kind of admits to giving up on doing stuff like this, like pitching and stuff, and leaning more into his own work, and like something that I've kind of adopted prior to Dean actually, putting it in words.
Mm-hmm.
But like just focusing on Stray and a couple of the other creator-owned properties I have. And it's not like, it's funny because like I think about how I started. I didn't want to write for Marvel or DC. Like I wanted to write my own stuff, and it just so happened that Dean was at the comic store one day and said, "Hey, do you want to write 5 pages of a Batman story?" And that just, it just kind of went from there. And and I admit that the money was great, and I was just trying to just keep a roof over my head, and I enjoyed the I don't want to say the audience, but like the because the audience is great no matter what, but like the kind of distribution end of it, like where it's being seen by a lot more people.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always nice to have something like that on your resume. It just feels good to have something like that on your resume.
But I don't disparage myself.
Good.
I've learned to like enjoy what I'm doing on my own, more so than anything. And to that point, like Mark wrote a very nice introduction for a Stray collection that we're putting together in the next year or so. That'll be like the compilation. We might have to update it a little bit, but it was a couple of years ago. But like, and to know that you've read it and that you've enjoyed it, that's enough for me. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm going to push back on one thing. I'm going to push back.
Dude, please. Yeah.
So Mark says that when he couldn't get to write Superman, he didn't think about Superman. I think that's a lie. Number one.
I think Mark always thinks.
Well, I wasn't thinking about Superman stories. I'm always thinking about Superman.
Well, only because I know that, but I mean,
yeah.
Only because Vito famously says he has plotted out in his head 50 issues of Nightwing, which I'm like, get the fuck out of it. Come on, man.
Yeah, I have, and like what's funny is I wouldn't say that I've turned those into Stray stories, but there are some similarities in those 50 and the 50, whatever. It's just pie in the sky thinking. Like, look, man, I love Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon together, but like I had a whole story where he was together with Betty Kane. It just, and not for nothing, that's a Mark Waid story if I've ever heard.
That's a Mark Waid story.
Sure, Like it's just like,
let's cut, somebody, man. Yep.
But and like they're just fun to do. Like it just it's an exercise sometimes, and sometimes it's like it's a sincere desire that if I had a chance to do this is what I would do. I have 7 issues, 12 issues, whatever, to write an arc or whatever. But God, I'm really enjoying writing one shots now.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
And that's because Dean kind of encouraged that over the last year, and like, oh wow, this is really not that it's my favorite. I love long-term storytelling, but I do enjoy like the discipline of writing something that you just take one day to read it, or 1 hour to read it.
It's like haiku.
Yeah,
I mean, writing comics is like haiku, right? You're doing comics is like, I always say it's structure, and it is the economy of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to get across the most story you can in the least number of images and the least number of words, and it is haiku. It is a learned language. As somebody who has been a publisher and an editor and has had to deal with novelists and screenwriters coming in trying to do comics, boy, is it a learned language.
Yeah. And what do you call it? You've also taught a couple of seminars
Yeah.
and stuff as well. So I mean, when you do those, what are you seeing coming in? Like what kind of talent pool is out there that you're kind of shepherding?
It's mostly just complete tyros. It's mostly just, or they've done an indie here, an indie there, or whatever. But it's mostly people, because it's really, it's not so much how to create comics as it is storytelling in comics, which is what I do it with Howard Chaykin, and Howard's, bailiwick is that. He's all about storytelling. And same with me. Like, here's how to tell a story. Here's what a story is, which so many people don't understand. And then here's how to do it in comics. I'm not looking at their work. It's like, they don't get that. Look, I've already given you what I know. I'm not going to give you homework and look at it. I don't have time. But what I am getting is people who are coming up afterwards who have not thought about the economy of storytelling.
Mm-hmm. How
well, they also, I was going to say, I think most people who start to read comics and want to draw comics are not thinking about storytelling at all. They're thinking about drawing cool pictures, right? And then you're like, wait a second, no, kid.
I mean, I think that's part and parcel.
Story.
I mean, think about it like this, Dean. Look at what the comics that Mark read when he was coming up. I think he points to a Legion of Superheroes comic by Shooter as one of his like his Rosetta Stone. You think about the things that you read, the things that I've read. They're all these kind of cinematic storytelling, whereas our younger generation, maybe behind us, grew up on Image comics, where it's literally image. It's image over everything. So I don't think that's. I think that's just a glitch in the in the whole matrix of the whole thing, where somebody like Mark and Howard would point out, oh, you should be reading more books, or you should be.
But it's funny because, and I love that those two guys do something together, and I've never seen it because I feel like they're so different. You guys,
oh yeah,
so
it's from my perspective, it's a weird combination. Yeah,
I believe that. Like
I almost like paid up to watch this. Like I gotta be a fly on the wall one of these days. Like it's just,
yeah. The best part is I get up there for an hour and I say something, then Howard will come up right after me and go, Mark is wrong. So
there you go. Thanks, Howard.
Yeah.
Wow. So wait, if you were to recommend like books, I used to, somebody asked me how to write comics besides reading comics, and looking at some of the, how to draw comics the Marvel way, which is just a way of drawing, but also thinking in terms of storytelling. And then there's Scott McCloud's book, of course, which came later in life. But I used to point toward David Mamet's On Directing Film.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of that or seen that?
I have, yes. Yeah.
And it was about the economy, again, the economy of storytelling. And he described it as like building a house, right? So you have this skeleton of a house and you have nails and things that are holding things up. And if you can pull a nail out and the nail is a sentence or a scene and the house is still standing, you didn't need that anymore.
Out it goes. Exactly.
And I feel, and I get that as a good rule, right? But the older I get, the more I realize I'm in, the killing your darlings term. I feel like I've been indulging my darlings lately. I don't know why that is,
It's fun. It's fun. If you've got the room to do it, I mean, there's writers who've made a career out of it, but I always feel like I got 22 pages, man. You got to get moving.
Well, okay. So what's daunting about that monthly?
It is that 22 pages is that you got 100, comics. Comics is Polaroid pictures, right? That's what it is. You got 100 Polaroid pictures to tell your story. Mm-hmm. And so it is constantly that nothing made me realize this more, by the way, than I did one of those scripted audio books for Marvel. I did a Fantastic Four Doctor Doom thing, which was, and it was such a joy. Why? Because if I wanted to add something, I would just add it, and I wouldn't have to worry about panel count, and I wouldn't have to worry about word count, and I wouldn't have to worry about page count. I'm just going to, you know what? You're right. That's the note you're giving me. Okay, great. I'll just add it in here. It was so freeing.
And it's like playwriting. Like I've written plays, and it's so different from. I mean, I could try to transpose it into a comic, and actually, I've looked at I've been looking at Kyle Baker's "Why I Hate Saturn" because of the way he drew that. could be theater like structured,
Totally. Totally.
And so I've thought that way, but like, have you ever written a play? Would you want to write a play?
I don't, I would, of all the other media I would want to dance around in. I mean, I've dabbled in video games, I've dabbled here, dabbled there, and it's short story and stuff. I hate writing short story. I hate writing prose. But of all the other media, theater play would probably be the way I would go because, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have more experience in that world than I do, but it feels to me like when I'm talking about the difference between the media, right? Comics is a visual media. Movies is a visual media too, but it's different because things are moving. Novels is a different medium mostly because in novels, conflict is mostly internal. Whereas in comics, conflict is almost always external. And in plays, dialogue is the thing.
Mm-hmm. Dialogue, is it because you have people standing or sitting, or laying down on the same view the entire time? You can create the idea of a close-up by having all the lights go away and only shine on a face, or laser focus on a moment. But you're right. It's all dialogue and pauses and silence. And I just finished watching, did you see Ripley? The new Ripley series?
Oh my God, yes.
First of all, gorgeous to look at, just alone, gorgeous, black and white.
How could you do a black and white series that people watch now and you were riveted? Yeah, I know.
It's not on channel.
Beautiful. And the number of camera, by the way, the number of camera setups in every episode blows my mind.
Me too. It's unbelievable. But in terms, there was dialogue and there was theater and it was cinema, right? But the balls to have so many quiet moments where, again, I'm going to go back to what I think you enjoy is you like the visual. You rely on the visual. You're asking for the visual. But I also think that you could write prose really well. I remember one time you describing when you went and saw Zack Snyder or Scott. Zack Snyder. When you saw his Superman. And you talk about, I think when Michael Shannon's character is
Zod.
Zod started to kill, right? And talk about a guy that's in front of you that's jumping up and down, screaming, getting mad. And you realize you were that guy.
Right, exactly.
It's so fucking funny the way you describe it. I realize, and then we realize it's you, right? Yeah. But it's prose. You wrote it like it was like a Facebook message or something, right?
That's true. But it's not prose fiction. That's the thing. Right?
Okay.
I can write prose all day long, but
write a memoir then. Jesus Christ already. Like,
it is so tempting. It is so tempting to write one.
I think the other thing, Mark, that you might be, and I mean, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think, knowing you as long as I have, I might be safe in saying this. I think the other thing that speaks to you being attracted to theater is the connection to the reader or the audience, because it is a one-on-one thing.
It's very intimate. Yeah.
I mean, the thing I always say about movies and theater, the difference between them is movies feel like a shared experience with everyone in your row. And now, even though you're in a theater with a bunch of people, I feel like because it's so quiet, like Dean was saying, there are pauses and like these intentional silences. I feel like that affects you intimately, on a one-on-one basis. And I think that's why you might be drawn to that, because it's very much like a comic where it's just, I wrote it, you're reading it, we're sharing this experience right now.
Right. And we are also discovering things about the characters through dialogue. Yeah. And we are also, so it's such an intimate medium. But I think
it is intimate. And I would hazard that the theater and the movie theater, the cinematic theater and the play theater can create the same collective inhale, exhale, depending on the riveting
but
something
can be. The difference is like being with that person.
Yes, I think you're right.
Like, because in a theater it's on a screen, but in a movie theater it's on a screen, but in a theater, like in a playhouse, you can breathe the same air as that person.
Exactly. Yeah, you're hearing the same sounds they're hearing. Yes, it's a much more intimate. Yeah.
And comic books is a solo experience in a lot of ways, right?
In some ways. Yeah. Not the way Grant writes them, anyway. But
They are solo
You mean?
experiences. Yeah,
because Grant's in the comic. I don't know how to explain it.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I
Okay.
mean, but there is some truth to that in that maybe less so in prose, but I definitely feel it when I write a comic that I'm putting so much of myself into this character or into this story that when I present it to you, and the proof is in the pudding whenever you go to a convention, somebody asks you to sign it because it meant that for them.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So wait, that's just so. What is the closest characterization of you have you written in a comic book? In what character? In who?
Flash, like straight up Flash, like Wally.
I was
That was
saying
just
that.
me.
I
Like
never read your Flash. I have
Oh my
not read
God,
your
Dean!
Flash, and I
I
know
got a
I'm in,
I'm
tattoo
out. I'm
of
out.
the
I'm out.
Flash symbol because of it.
Cut, cut. Hey,
I need to read
that
your.
was me, or at least that was me in my late 20s and early 30s. That was me. It was just it was the first thing I learned to do long form, right? It was the first long form series I had. And so I did what you're not supposed to do, which is just use your own voice.
Yeah, I was reading Kazar at the time that Flash was
Yeah.
coming out, and I remember sitting in McDonald's it's in Times Square, and
Yeah. The
reading.
one right around from Midtown Comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading in there, sitting there reading there, and I was like, "Who is this?" And then like just being like, "I need to read more of who this guy is,"
Oh,
and cut to maybe 15 years later, actually meeting you at a free comic book day. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it was this the whole thing was. I just remember, discovering Flash and
Mhm.
Starman at around the same time, and they were both so important to me. Like
Thank you.
in terms, no, thank you. Like in terms of the
Yeah.
development of my voice, and
Yeah.
in terms of just falling in love with comics. Period.
Yeah.
Like those two books, Dean. I swear, like Flash is one of the best things you've never read.
I just never liked Flash. I thought he was a stupid character, man. Like I didn't get it. Like so, it would never occur to me to read the comic. And remember,
Right.
recently I picked up a few issues of when I was first introduced to when I would first see Flash in the comic stands, and it might have
Yeah.
been around the time. Like when I think about what I grew up with, I think my Spider-Man was drawn by Ross Andrew, and then there was Bill Mantlo, Sal Buscema, Hulk, right?
Right.
So the Flash was being drawn by
Oh my God.
very
It
old
was,
Carmen Infantino.
Yeah,
yeah, like Carmine when he lost 6 steps. Yeah.
And I think Carrie Bates or somebody might have been writing it, or I don't remember
Yeah.
I think
who.
And
that was
Carrie,
after Crisis, but yeah.
yeah. And
And
no,
it
actually, it was
was
before then. And it
Was he?
was, yes, that
Oh
same
yeah,
era. And so it was
Bill.
Carrie, who had been on the book since the, Pleistocene era.
Yeah,
And
Bill Messner Loebs took over after. That's right.
yeah, it was Mike Barron who took over like when they relaunched. It was Carrie Bates right to the end. Then it was Crisis. Then it was Mike Barron. And then it was Bill Loebs for a long time. And then it
Yeah.
was me. Yeah.
and then you were after Loeb. See, so that
Yeah.
was my understanding of Flash. Was like, all right, I don't even get this comic book, And then when you took over, Mark, and again, I wasn't even paying attention. I'm trying to think,
Yeah.
what year was that? Like, what year are we talking about?
92. I want to say
92. So what
91,
comics
92.
was I
Yeah.
reading? I just know when you took over Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
it's like Fantastic Four is the one comic book I will always buy. I will always
Yeah.
read it, right? And there have been periods, but like it's up there with Stan and Jack. You and
Well,
Michael
thank you.
Ringo.
That's really kind.
Come on though.
Yeah.
And I love the John Byrne, most of the John Byrne
Right.
series. I love a lot of what Walt did, but Walt got weird with it.
Really,
Like
with that one time jump issue that's all over
there
the
was a
place.
time jump issue, and it got a little funky. And the weird thing, and I've said this to Walt, and I love Walt. I don't think he figured out how to draw the thing.
That's interesting. I can see that. Yeah.
Just like, and that's a hard character to draw. So
It's terrible. It's a really hard. If you want to break into comics, the first thing you should fucking learn to do is learn to draw the thing. If you can do that, then
that would be hilarious. Michelangelo was auditioning for the Sistine Chapel, and he drew a circle, perfect circle. That's what got him the gig.
Oh, that's right. I've heard that story. Yeah.
It was a circle. Because everyone else is trying to vogue and do all this other stuff. And he just went up there and drew a circle with one hand. They're like, you got the job.
Whose idea was it to make God Kirby? I mean, it makes sense. Oh, God bless you. Like, I just remember that entire run was magic.
Thank you.
And I hesitate to say anything more or anything less because it's a perfect way to encapsulate that run. It's 2 guys, 3, 4, if you want to count.
Clark Kiesel, who actually chipped in on a lot of the storytelling.
Yeah.
So you got Carl more than an inker. He
Yeah.
was like, he was also the conscience of the book to make sure that everything sounded right. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's cool.
Just like from top to bottom, even I think I even gave Brevoort his flowers over that one. But just to be reading it in real time and then to get to that panel, just there, you have actually, and I wanted to bring this up, you have actually brought me to either tears or to like catch my breath. That was a catch my breath. The tears one, and I told you how, like, Dean, I don't think you know this story. I think I told Mark this many, many moons ago when he did a convention here in Pittsburgh. Captain America Volume 3, Number 3, you and Ron Garney, Heroes Reborn, right after all of, or Heroes Return, I should say, right after everything that happened. Cap loses his shield underwater. I literally broke down, like, what is happening? Why do I care about a shield? And I wrote my only fan letter to Marvel ever. Don't know if it was ever published. I didn't really, care. It was just I had to say something to somebody in a void, like on AOL or something. Like, it was just those two things moved me to pieces. Like,
and do you know why? Because I love that shield.
Yeah.
I've been making those shields since I was 8 years old. Anything I can get my hands on that looked like a shield, I would make into a shield. And so because I loved it that much, I was able to move you to tears from its loss because it meant something to me. That's the secret sauce, man.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about theater and comics being this kind of shared experience, because we're breathing the same air. I must have felt the same way. I must feel the same way for you to do that to me in a comic book with him just reaching out, trying to like not to die.
And desperately, he's got to choose between the woman who's drowning and the shield's going down, down, down. Yeah. And
so
then there's
amazing.
that, and Christopher Priest did give me one moment, which is the very end when he gets out of the water and the sun is coming up and he does this. It's like, oh, crap, not.
He doesn't have it. Oh,
that's
God.
incredible.
So it is like, if you've never read it, anybody watching, or Dean, back issue bins, probably, a couple dollars, definitely worth it. Like, I search that comic book down all the time.
Thanks, man.
No,
but so now but in a way, not that it's an evergreen moment, but it's, I don't even know what you call that moment, that you remember that, so like that we all have
it's
those
indelible,
sure. Okay, for instance, we've all seen Avengers, the last, was it Endgame?
Yeah.
And there's Captain America fighting Thanos. Dude, we all cry. We all fucking cry. Like,
I'll go.
It's going to die. Right? What?
I'll go. You told me when he catches the hammer. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay,
oh man!
Catches the hammer and he says it, but before that even happens, I think it's before.
It's after.
He is going to die.
Right. Yeah.
And he still stands up, half a cracked shield. He tightens the belt on his hand, and he stands there. And you're like, because he's going to be he's that little skinny kid, like, I'll be here all day type thing.
Yeah.
And then you hear on your left.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the Falcon.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? What's happening? And like, they all start to come back, for their 5 year away, all those 5 minutes for them. And like, and then when the whole thing with the hammer and like all those moments, like, but that's not an evergreen. I don't know what you call that, like.
Indelible is probably a good word for it. Vito said,
like, it's just these are like, watershed moments and indelible moments that just in your head whenever I can't imagine being somebody that wrote one of the between you, Brubaker, writing Captain America in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like I don't think there was even Dan Jurgens doing his I think Captain America and Falcon for a little while there. Like, I think probably the best, consistent run, probably just like Daredevil from Bendis to Brubaker, just like these great separate runs that just kind of run into each other, that, like maybe there's like interruptions in between, and like maybe it's not,
but basically a murderer's row of creators,
right?
Exactly,
and it's not like handed off like a baton, but there are these like you just don't forget these stories, and like they might reboot the Marvel universe, through a Secret Wars or through whatever, like in the comics, but you just keep coming back to these moments, like Shazam using the lightning to defeat Superman.
Right,
it's never seen before you guys did it.
Exactly.
To my knowledge, I mean, your memory goes back a little bit more than mine, but not much.
He did it once, and it crappy Dick Dylan story. It doesn't matter. So yeah, but
There's
this, yeah,
like,
but yeah, that's the moments I long for those moments. I've written like 3 or 4 of those moments, and I'm very proud of those moments. Like people will come up to me and they will quote a line of dialogue that like, okay, yeah, that was a good line. That was a good moment. Can we just take a second? I want to go back to Captain America catching the hammer in that movie. I don't know that I have felt that level of joy in all seriousness for like 10 years in the last decade than that moment. I was at the theater where the Marvel creators were there because we always get the spillover. We don't get to go to the main theater where they're having their premiere. We get the spillover theater. But, so I'm with my people and we're all going nuts during that whole fight at the end of the movie. And I'm losing my mind. It's just amazing. And when Cap catches that hammer, I lost my mind. It's almost like a fugue state for a second. And I went so crazy that I realized only after the lights came up and everything was over that I had literally torn the arm off of the seat. And it resides upstairs in my study to this day.
You gotta get Chris Evans to sign that or something.
I just stuck it in my pocket and I just I'm going to remember this forever. So the El Capitan Theater is missing an armrest because of me. But yeah.
That's incredible. That's wow. Talk about a transference of power.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny because like you take that moment with one of the characters that you had a hand in contributing to, and then you take the moment where we were just talking about Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, where Superman snaps Zod's neck, and you have those two moments, and they're so diametrically opposed.
Right.
Why? Like, why do we have to? The question I'm asking is, why do we have to choose between the two? I know what my answer is, but like, why is it that we can't? The three of us, even,
right?
Can't we, accept that for what it is? Like, I've always said that there's never been a Batman movie until the Matt Reeves one, because in every Batman movie he uses a gun. Batman doesn't use guns. He's
right.
Elseworlds.
Right.
So
right.
That Superman movie's got to be in Elseworlds.
I would be more flexible now.
Yeah.
I would have 13 years ago or whatever when Man of Steel came out. I've come to a little more peaceful place where I realize, look, everybody gets to worship the Superman of their choice. And
that's fair.
If it makes you happy, that makes you happy. I know Superman doesn't kill. We all know Superman doesn't kill. I'm not going to argue with you anymore because I've spent all that energy. I have no more energy in me left to argue about Superman killing. So
I'm super forgiving on with anything I watch. I'm like, even though I don't agree, I go, okay, that's a version. It's not necessarily, it's not going to be my version. Half the time I don't even know what my version is. But I will say, just to be to nerd out about the Zack Snyder Superman, is worse than killing Zod, I think, was letting his father die.
I don't know if it was worse, but it was a bad choice.
Get it. I just oh, so don't tell anybody you're Superman? Fuck that. Like, go be or you're not even Superman yet, that you have superpowers. Like, and you just like, no, that's cool. I'm just gonna stand.
I get that. I get the moment. I get what Jonathan was doing. I get this Jonathan, like, your secret is more important than my life.
Right.
Which is actually arguably true. Not to Clark, but Clark should have stepped in. But I get what they were selling anyway.
I understand what they were selling, but when I think about it more and more, I'm like, oh man, like, you let your dad die. That's what I think.
That didn't bother me as much as snapping Zod's neck.
There was a moment in Batman Superman where Ma Kent says something like, "You don't owe anybody anything." Look, see.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Everyone on this planet owes everyone else something in terms of just being kind, and just in terms of being helpful, in terms of it is a social pact that 8 billion people share.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger sin than the Pa Kent thing. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, that's true. When Ma Kent says
that was in the same movie. That's in the same movie.
Batman Superman. That's in the next.
Batman vs Superman. And Ma Kent says, "Yeah, you don't owe them anything. Fuck you."
Right. Wow.
Dean, to answer your question, you were asking about books about writing, and I actually have one. This is my second copy of it.
Yeah.
I first bought it when I was living in Seattle in '99, and it is let's
Oh
see,
yeah,
Writers on Comic Script Writing, and
Uh-huh.
there he is right there.
there I am right there.
And I learned literally, Mark. I should get you to sign this next time I see you.
Yeah,
I learned so much from this about
yeah.
not so much about the craft of writing because it is in there. Um, just there's these little interstitial things about each one. But one of the things that I learned was it might have been Grant that said it. It might have been you that we came from a world of watching sitcoms and like
Mm-hmm.
half-hour sitcoms, and it's kind of like going back to the whole writing one-shots.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like it's just
Yes.
like, and I
Yes.
don't remember who said it. It might have been, I think it might have been you, Mark. But it just such a like when I read that, it was just like everything just popped. Like it just
Conflict resolution. Conflict resolution.
Yeah.
To this
that is
day,
the,
39
yeah.
episodes of The Honeymooners is perfection. Like
Exactly.
to this day.
Think about the fact that you made such a mark on pop culture with 39 half hours of television. Think about the fact that the Beatles' entire oeuvre, their entire catalog is 9.5 hours.
Right.
That's
Right.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
What do you, if you could distill that into, I don't want to say advice, but into like a nugget, what would you call that, Mark? Well, what is that?
I mean, just remember what a goddamn story is. Somebody wants something and something's in their way. That's that simple.
Yeah.
And then win or lose, there are consequences. It is that simple. And the number of scripts that have come across my desk in my career that don't even know that much makes me batshit.
Mm.
That's same with a sitcom, same with a 3-minute sort of pop song from the 70s that's not that's one of these story songs, right? Anything that's a story song, Wichita Lineman or whatever, something they build, something happens, there's a consequence. I mean, and you get it in 3 minutes.
And I don't know how you do it monthly because like I'm just not that kind of writer. I feel I can't do, you give me one book and 12 issues in 1 year. I really have to think about every issue. Well, I guess today, when we grew up, you got a whole story in one issue.
Right.
Okay. Now it's 5 or 6 issues usually, right? Or
Yeah,
something.
but I'm still a big proponent. I'm sorry, I'm doing all the talking. I don't mean to.
Please.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm still a big proponent of, regardless of whether or not it's a 5-issue story or whatever, still within that one comic, you need a moment of conflict and resolution so that it feels like a complete, and I hate to use this phrase, but I don't know any other way to put it, a complete unit of entertainment, right? You put down money for this one thing and you got something out of it that didn't make it feel like you were wasting your time.
You recommend buying an issue out of order. Does that make sense? The way you write, meaning like, oh, it's the third part of a story, but you get a story, you get caught up, and maybe there's more next, but I got a story in between that. You know what I'm saying?
And it can be a little thing. It can be 3 pages of the, but still something where conflict resolution. It's not easy to do in the scope of a larger story of 5 issues or whatever. But if you can do it, then you're on. Then you're game on.
Mark, who taught you? Like, who taught you all this? Like, I mean, I feel like you learned it, from the editorial point of view, from doing Amazing Heroes and stuff, and like just writing about comics.
Yeah.
But I feel somebody had to have shepherded you or mentored you at some point. Like,
I wish the 3 most influential people in my career have been Harlan Ellison. Now, you guys, I don't know, are you guys fans of Harlan, or do you kind of know his work at all?
I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream is one of the best stories ever made.
I enjoy Harlan, but like I feel like sometimes some of his entourage, Clifford Meth being one of them, kind of like rubbed me wrong. So it kind of turns me off a little bit to his work, but I actually respect him. Peter David was a good one. So
here's my follow-up question though. So when did you discover him?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably
Dean, when did
college.
Yeah.
Probably I was at Pitt for a couple of years, University of Pittsburgh for a couple of years. So I don't think it was through a class or anything. I think it was just through like guys on my floor, just talking about music or boats, or something. So
What about you, Dean? When did
I met him in 1995 at my
but when
first
did you
Comic Con.
when did the first exposure you had to his work that made you go,
Oh,
oh,
it
like
might have been.
how old were you?
I think it was Star Trek.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
but my point is, how
Oh,
old
oh,
were you?
young. It's like I always
Exactly.
joke. Yeah, you're young.
Yeah.
You're young.
My my
Absolutely.
my point being that the reason Harlan clicked for me is because I think that, and I think this is true for 95% of his audience, is they discovered him when they were teenagers.
Hmm.
Because at that age, you have all that rage inside you and all that opinion and all everything, and you don't know how to articulate it, right? And Harlan did that. Harlan had that same sort of adolescent rage all the time, but he knew how to give it voice. And so Harlan taught me that it's about emotion. That's what Harlan taught me. William Goldman
Hmm.
taught me
I
about
was going to
structure.
name him.
That is
Absolutely.
that's the best book on comics writing I can think of, is Adventures in the Screen Trade.
Screen Trade, right? That's the other book that I give away. And actually,
Yeah.
I know you have a third one, but if I could put
please.
a button in this, 5, 6, maybe 7 years now because of COVID time. I read. Have you read Alan Arkin's An Improvisational Life?
No. You told me about
Tell
that.
me.
So Alan Arkin, it's like his autobio, but it is and it isn't, because he kind of just will start talking about himself, and then suddenly he talks about an acting class or a thing he did, and how the reason why we love Alan Arkin is because he's actually an improv actor, and how he brought improv not only to his work but to his life. And then it made me think that I got to bring that to my work.
That's fascinating.
So it's not a long book.
Yeah.
Get his
I'll grab it.
Improvisation Life, and it may change the way you think a little bit, So it's anyway. And William Golden book is another one that I talk about all the time. Because as he's describing Hollywood and his trials and tribulations, he is teaching you how to write.
Yes.
While you're reading it. It's
Vito,
incredible.
you've read this book, Vito,
yeah,
right?
I read that and Story by Robert McKee at the same roughly the same time. And I always felt that Story was a little too textbook, a little too academic, but Adventures in the Screen Trade was just so pleasant.
Yeah, there was a phase at DC where they would pay the young editors to go take McKee's class over a weekend, and you always knew when that happened, because the next conversation you have with that editor, they're suddenly talking about turning points and this and Save the Cat and all that stuff, and then like, oh my God, you've broken the prime directive. You've given information to a culture that is not ready to receive it yet. Right. So, but Goldman, that book, there's a sequence in that book where and this is Comics Writing 101. He talks about he breaks down the beginning of the movie Harper with Paul Newman.
Oh, I can tell you what he says about the coffee.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Yes.
He okay. No, you say it.
It's fresher in your memory, I think. Go ahead.
So basically, Paul Newman is like a kind of a washed up detective or something. I forget what he is.
Down and out detective. Yeah.
Down and out detective. In fact, I did see the kind of sequel, The Drowning Pool, recently, which is okay. But they had to establish, without him saying, "I'm broke and need money,"
a word, without him saying a word. Yeah.
Without saying a word, he goes to make coffee, and he realizes he has no more coffee. So he goes and opens up his garbage can and brings out yesterday's filter full of old coffee grinds. And now he's poor and broke.
Exactly.
And they don't have to talk about it. It's a helping establish character, so that when something comes up, he probably has to take a job he doesn't want to take. Let's say.
But being able to tell you something about that, being able to I totally get that character in that one moment, and there was no line of dialogue. That's right. It was just a moment. Yeah. That is what Goldman taught me. Like that's the gems. The best page of comics I ever wrote, was it's an issue of Captain America. It's right after he loses his shield stuff, right? And it's a splash page, and Cap is diving off the Flatiron Building, chasing a bomb that has been thrown by a Hydra agent who's standing on the ledge of the Flatiron Building, and the news crawl around it is something about Hydra, terrorist plot, New York City, or whatever it is. And that one image, there's no line of dialogue there. It just tells you everything about what is going. It tells you a whole story in one image, and I was so pleased with that. That's what I want every time. If I can give you one image and just tell you a whole story, I can lay down for the rest of the week.
And that's going back to indelible moments and things that you just won't forget. Like that kind of stick with you even long after you've read it. Like it took me a bit to remember that splash page, as you were describing it. And then when you said Flatiron Donor, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And again, like that, you and Garney and I think Andy afterwards.
Andy Kuber. Yeah.
Like the three of you just, again, like weave magic on that whole tale.
I remember speaking of not indelible moments, but character beats, that when you start to learn, like I have a tough time drawing more than two people in a panel. Okay. Like, George Perez rocked 20, superheroes in a panel. Right. But, as did John Byrne. And I remember John Byrne once saying that the way he draws Captain America walking is that one foot is firmly planted on the ground at all times in case he has to leap into action.
Wow. That's really well thought out.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Like, so he always had one foot in case he had to push off of it, to run or to leap or whatever. Yeah. And like, maybe it's bullshit, but I bought it. I love that.
I bought it.
He said that. That's cool to know that.
If it's not true, it should be true.
It should be true. I have a question. People are always asking, who are you writing for? Are you writing for me, for you, for your mom, the girlfriend, or whatever? And I want you to answer that question. But then I have a second part to the question, which I think for a long time, a lot of comic book writers were writing for 12-year-olds because that's who was buying them, right?
Oh yeah. When you and I were reading comics, that's
when
what
we
they
were
writing
comics. Yeah. That's who they're writing. Are you writing for 40-year-olds?
No, not at all. I write like page 3 on. I write for me to get excited, because if I'm excited, you're going to be excited. Right. The first couple of pages I write for my mom, which is, you need to understand what's going on, what the stakes are, who these characters are, what they want. If you don't have that information up front, the rest of it is useless.
Right.
And on that same note, I can't write any comic until I know what page 1 is. And I figured all that out, because once I've gotten that out of my system, then I can go have fun. But you've got to know as early as you can, here's what's going on. So I'm constantly reading my scripts with an eye towards, would my grandmother be able to make heads or tails out of this?
Interesting. That's great. And do you know, some people write backwards. They know their ending and then they go back to page 1. Do you do that? Right. I don't.
Now, as we've discussed, I never know how these stories end.
You have no idea. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever bumped up?
I build a plane while I fly it. Yeah.
Have you ever had to talk to your editor, or like Paul, who I love, by the way, Paul Kaminsky?
Yeah, Paul's great. Yeah.
You ever been like, dude, I need another issue. I fucked up. I got to keep going. We got to keep going here.
There's times I've wanted, but I there's always a way to fix it. There's always a way to fix it.
Okay. All right.
Well,
speaking of not fixing, but last night I was watching John Suntress Balloon talking to Tom King a little bit while I was drawing at the art table. And now some people have been reporting this. Apparently, Tom King was asked to, and then I don't exactly know what happened. He didn't really finish the story.
I don't either. Yeah, but
did you hear about this?
Too. Yeah.
That Vito, I don't know if you know this, but he was there to like basically write the last 4 issues of the Frank Miller, Jim Lee Batman.
All-Star Batman and Robin.
All-Star Batman. So, guys, what could you do it? What would you do? Any off the cuff? No.
I hate that characterization of those characters so much. I could never do it.
That's the one part. And then the other part is like, how do you take that, what Frank built, and then kind of like try to be Frank? You know what I mean? Like, you can't be yourself. Like, you have to write in somebody else's voice.
You read Mickey Spillane.
Yeah, but then why do you want to be Frank? Like, why do you want to be? This is exactly why I went back to the superhero angle on Daredevil, partly because Steve Wacker said this is what we want, but also because the best, if I was going to do it the way Daredevil had been done for the last 25 years, the best I could possibly be was not as good as Frank.
Right.
What's the point?
Right.
I love that. I don't want to be karaoke. Yeah.
No, when you took over Daredevil and you took that approach, I was like, good for you, man.
You
You
know,
know?
that's an interesting, like I mentioned something about getting the baton, and I can't remember exactly who was it. Charles Sewell that wrote before you or after?
After, yeah.
Okay. So you're coming in between two writers at that point. I mean,
Mhm.
I know it's a rebooted comic that's starting off with number one, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But what are you getting, and then what are you giving? Like, how do you do that transition?
It's a great
How would
question.
you ideally do that
Yeah.
transition, maybe?
I mean, ideally, I talk to the writer before me and it not necessarily take what was left, but at least understand where they're coming from, right? So if there's anything in that transition I want to pull over to mine, I can do that. Like I did with Grunwald. Grunwald was great with Captain America. Grunwald was like, here's all my notes, here's all my stuff. If you want to use any of this, that's great. If not, that's I won't take umbrage. Fine. So, but it doesn't matter who I take it over from. I still do the same thing, which is go back to first principle
Yeah.
and just where is this character coming from? What, again, go back to the earliest stuff and see what is there that you can build off of. And in terms of handing it off, I don't think about it honestly. It's just I've said my story. I know that the next person who comes along is probably going to drop a piano in everything I did because that's comics.
Right.
But I've told my story. Can I say something about Daredevil real quick that
Sure.
I'm very proud of that I never get a chance to say? Because all this entire podcast is all about what a genius I am. So let me just add to that. Uh, um, I did more issues of Daredevil, consecutive issues of Daredevil, than anyone else ever, and not just writers, artists, colorists, letterers, editors. Nobody else beat me. I
How
did
many
more.
issues is that?
It was something I don't know the exact number, something in the 40
Really?
something issue number. Yeah. But
Wow.
nobody else had done that many consecutive issues of Daredevil. I went back and looked at everything.
Wow.
That's
And
awesome.
that felt pretty good. That was pretty pleasing.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
They
That's
don't give
incredible.
awards for this, but that's, I want that on my tombstone. The
Bullshit.
other
You've
thing,
gotten a couple of awards for it.
that's right, that's
I
true.
mean, if not you, Chris did, and
The other
Paul.
thing, exactly. The other thing, by the way, the other thing I want on my tombstone, you remember continued on second page following those
Yep.
stupid cat.
Yep.
I'm the guy who got rid of those. I want to say I want credit for this. I'm the guy. We were having a production. I was an editor at DC. We were having a production meeting. The production manager was like, the edit. This is back when we're starting to do full bleed books. So you're
Right.
starting to do the production manager was like, you got to remember, the captain's got to go there. Your letters are getting in that space. The art's not leaving. So why are we still doing these? I think we're past the point where people get to page 6 and then see an ad for bubble gum and think, oh, I guess that's in the end of the story. I think we're past that point.
I do
And
remember you're reminding me real quick.
yeah,
My dad takes me to see Raiders of the Lost Ark,
yeah,
and there's that first scene that's the end of another movie, right?
yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
and that whole thing happens. It's incredible, and I'm like, oh my god! Everybody claps, and I get up to go and leave the theater because I thought I just saw a whole movie.
Yeah, you saw
And
a whole
my
movie.
dad
Yeah,
grabs me. He's
yeah,
like, sit down.
yeah.
The movie's about to start. I'm like, what are you talking
Yeah, I
about?
saw the movie. That's great. That's hysterical.
So that reminds me of that. But oh my God. So going back really quickly, because I wrote this note down to
Yeah.
well-rounded personalities and how you're able to write different personalities. I saw a news item yesterday that then reminded me something that you told me in our collaboration
Mhm.
that NBC is going to do a reboot of Rockford Files.
Really? That
And I'm like,
seems
you can't reboot James Garner, and everyone
no.
knows that's
Right.
it's not Rockford Files, it's James Garner, right?
It's James Garner. It's the James Garner show. Yeah.
That's what that is. So,
Yeah.
and you had told me that when you were writing the voice for the Fox when we collaborated, you were
Mhm.
thinking of James Garner, I
Yeah.
believe.
I was thinking of
So,
Maverick James Garner. Yeah.
yeah, Maverick James Garner, right? And
Yeah.
so to bring that up, and I know I've told you this, Mark, and Vito is also super aware. I remember how when Mike Waringo died, and like
Mhm.
we were, I think, at a Baltimore Comic Con, and we were
Yeah.
talking, and everyone was talking, and and this is before the Ringos, I think, were developed and created. And we had always, talked about doing some kind of collaboration someday, type of thing. And and I remember how like I was like, well, that's really nice that Mark is saying that. I don't know if that ever happened, kind of a thing. It's just you're very encouraging everything. And then like I had this opportunity to do the Fox, and I was like, well, I don't need to write. I don't need. I mean, I can try to come up with some
Mhm.
plot, some story, which I did, you know. And then the fact that you just, we approached you, you said yes, we got to
Yeah.
collaborate in that way, and it always like is a heartwarming moment because you did what you said you would do, is to collaborate with me on something, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. Yeah.
And it also made me feel sanctioned, like you,
Yeah.
who I admire so much.
Oh, that's
You know, you
nice.
you made me think like, oh, I can be something of a pro, even though I've done other professional comics,
Yeah.
and arguably, if anybody knows my career, I was always doing indie stuff that wanted to do mainstream stuff, and I
Mhm.
did do a little bit here and there, and then probably it was Harvey Picar that kind of put me on the map when I did The Quitter, you know, and
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
That was
But
pretty.
I'm
Yeah.
still a superhero guy at heart, kind of
Yeah.
a thing,
Sure.
you know, even though I do autobio and everything else. But just being able to work in that way, and for you, I mean, to send you pages with whatever the plot is, and then like
Yeah.
get back, like to now read the comic. It was
Oh, that's,
incredible,
you're very
you
kind.
know.
And it was a true collaboration. This is what I always say. It's my story until such time as I hand it to you, at which point it's our story.
Mm.
Sure.
We got to be pulling the same direction. So you and I were back and forth, and you and I were
Right. Right.
co-plotting and
Right.
knocking it back and forth, which is the fun part of the job to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
getting on the phone and just talking out the story. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that really works. And I just
Yeah.
I caution young writers who think that they're handing down Moses tablets from the mountain and this is
No,
what you got to do. No, 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 no.
dude, I'm the artist. Right before we got on, was looking at the writer's script, the writer being me, and I was already
Yeah,
changing and fixing things that the writer fucked up,
yeah,
you know, like as the artist now, you know,
yeah.
which is nuts. And I don't mean fucked up, but like, oh, this is how it might be told better or serve the story
Right.
better, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway, I always appreciated that, and I would love again to do something. And I was
Oh,
wondering, I
yeah.
wanted to ask, do you and Chris Samney work the same way? Does he
Same
do a
way.
lot of plotting?
Yeah, he does. The only way I can fit it into my schedule, because I'm not going to
Okay,
not work with Chris, but it's the
right,
same thing. We get on the phone, we talk for an hour or two on each issue, and then I'll write up like like 5 or 6 pages, single space
mm,
pages of like plot. Here's what's here's some dialogue, but here's what
sure,
happened. And then I don't worry about the choreography.
right.
And
Oh
then
yeah, he's got it
and then he
covered.
goes wildly off script a lot of times, and that's fine. It's his story too, as long
Right.
as it makes sense and as long as we're pulling in the same direction. A scene that I thought was 1 page, he'll make 6 pages, and then a scene that I thought was long, he'll make 1 page, and
Sure.
and then other things will happen that I didn't account for that occurred to him while he was drawing. But that's fine. That's as long as you're dealing with somebody who's really good and knows how to
Right.
tell a story, like you, like Chris. You're in
Right.
good hands. When you're talking to somebody who has no idea, that is much worse.
It's his
What is your
story
schedule?
too. Hold on.
Huh?
Did you hear what he said? It's his story too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard anybody
Yes.
say that and articulate it like that. That is,
Yeah.
it's funny because whenever I work with somebody, I always say like you're free to change whatever you want. I do
Mhm.
full script.
Yeah.
I've done plot every couple of years, and it's not my forte, but like it's fun. But I've always said like we're married. This is our
Mhm.
kid, like or
Yep.
you're the uncle of, I'm the dad, you're the uncle, whatever. So you have a vested interest in the success of this child growing up, meaning the
Yeah.
story to be, but it's his story too. Such a more eloquent way to put it. Like
It's it's
I just
it's
wanted to point
our
that out.
story. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. It's our story.
But
So
also you want everybody collaborating to be invested in this
Exactly. I don't
collaboration.
want an art robot.
yeah,
Right.
There's no spark of spontaneity in that. I've had art robots. I had you always ask, as a writer, you always ask the artist, like, anything in particular you like drawing or don't like drawing. And it's not like I'm not asking like I'm a short order cook,
Mhm.
but I would like to know that going in, so that if the opportunity presents itself to not put horses in the story or whatever, I will bear that in mind. And I work with guys who have a laundry list, and I work with raw artists who are like, I don't care, whatever you feel like, which is weird in its own way. But that
Yeah.
I don't love that as much, because it feels like then they're not as invested.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's interesting because I think in the one hand, if I'd be like, oh, let me get challenged by whatever you write, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe it would take me out of certain comfort zones and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean the joke is you don't want to have like an army an army followed by horses at a car race or something. You know, like
Right,
it's the same.
exactly. You know what I
You
mean?
know?
Here's on a one page, you've got a baseball stadium, a Ferris wheel, and a bicycle. You don't want to do
Yeah,
that to an artist. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, in fact, I won't say. Well, I got offered to draw a two-page story featuring one of the most famous superheroes, maybe sitting behind you, Mark.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was written by someone I think well known, and it was like 9 panels a page, and every panel had a different setting. And I said no.
Yeah.
And
No.
I felt like I have an opportunity to draw an official Superman. And I did do one later, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
but I was like, I'm saying no because I know that I'm gonna have a hard time with this.
Yes.
And what the fuck? Why did they write it like this? God damn them! Like, piss me off, you know?
Right.
Like,
Because they're not thinking about the artist.
and
Jesus.
then the person who did it, which is one of the more well-known Superman writer artists that I think
Right.
drew it, did a great fucking job. I was like, great,
Yeah.
congratulate. Well, that's why they
Good for
did
you. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm just like, I knew myself. I was like, there's no way, you know.
Also, there's a difference between taking something that's going to take you out of your comfort zone and taking something that you know you're not right for.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
it is scary to say no as a freelancer, but you're always better off because that's going to be the one job that the next editor sees of yours, luckily, you know, and it's going to look like crap, you know. So
who's the artist that got away, or who did you ever work with, like Kurt Swan, or was there ever an artist that was like who's the ones you wish you could have collaborated with?
that's a great question. I got Kurt Swan briefly. I got
Jim
Aparo. I got Jim Aparo. That was pretty cool. I got, and you know what it was Neil until the very end. That's why I did that Fantastic Four story with Neil, because Neil was the top of my bucket list. Neil was the very first artist as a kid who I looked at and said, "Oh, that guy's different. I like that." And he's the first artist I ever started following. And so I took the FF thing, figuring that he was just going to take the plot wherever he wanted to take it anyway. And then it turns out he didn't. So I was kind of counting on him to just go nuts. And okay, yeah. So
I remember how peculiar, because again, I'm very particular about the thing. And then he drew the thing like he was a gorilla or something,
something like that. Yeah,
you notice that? Like, it was a very strange interpretation from my sensibilities. You know,
I agree. There's something about the brow that wasn't quite right,
and maybe he had a really longer. And his mouth looked more gorilla-like, and his brow, and anyway, whatever. But you know what? Actually, that's another one that I have not read. I was still trying to get through his Batman Odyssey, which is
it was my favorite comic when it was coming out, because every issue was like, what the fuck am I reading?
And he's yelling at the reader the whole time. He's always yelling at you, like as you're reading it.
And he's always breaking his own rules, like this in terms of storytelling. Like, no, this is shitty storytelling, Neil. What are you doing? But it was my favorite book. And it's like, what am I looking at here?
You know, it's funny. I always wanted to do a podcast, and this would be a job, but it would be like first and last. So it'd be the very first thing, and maybe not technically the very first thing, but maybe the first thing that a creator is known for. And then their last work before they died. I don't mean posthumous or something in between, you know, like, and then do like analyze those two, and what were their trends that lasted throughout, and what was working, not working, what were the concerns, you know, between the two, very, you know, with that amount of time in between those two things, you know. So what would you consider to be like your first work
that really felt like, okay, my work,
maybe you're like, okay, this is you,
when I kind of got it, when like I kind of see what I'm doing. I probably Flash, which you've never read, but that's okay.
I'll read it, I swear I will,
because I'd done a bunch of stuff before then, but it was not, you know, I didn't know that it wasn't about plot. I didn't realize yet it was about character and heart and emotion. I just thought I was writing Superman stories for Julie Schwartz that were like, you know, they were like crossword puzzles. I mean, I was just trying to Sudoku. I was just trying to make a puzzle work. And character meant nothing. So because that's what Schwartz was buying. So you
right. Well, wasn't he known for
coming up with covers first and then
covers,
figuring out
right?
the story around them? Yeah. God, I love that. I love that.
That's a great idea. I mean, come on.
Yeah. You always get a good image. If nothing else, you get a good strong cover.
You get a strong cover.
By the way, the third person. I mean, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
No.
So I said 3 people who were a huge influence.
Yes.
And the third one was Dick Giordano. Was Dick? Did you meet Dick? Either of you?
I met him.
You did meet him?
Yeah. Very funny story.
Oh, well, tell it, and then I'll tell.
It was in a church basement show. He was maybe a couple of years before he passed, and it's not entirely that funny. It's just that, like, oh, there's Dick Giordano, like mustache and everything. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I should, it's very weird how we didn't have Wizard magazine growing up. So how did we know what these pictures were? And it was because of those soap boxes, like Stan's soapbox, and like I think had one DC Currents or something like that. Or where Dick's picture.
Meanwhile, it was
right.
Meanwhile.
Yeah, and so I kind of recognized him from that, and I was like, oh, let me go talk to him. And I went over to him. I swear to you, walked over to him, and he just turned around and just walked away. Like it's like he knew I was coming, and he
goes. Out he goes. That's great.
Wow. I remember my mother moved to Flagler Beach, Florida, I don't know, 10 some odd years ago, maybe longer. And there was a local comic shop. I remember going, I got to find the comic shop. What do they got? And this was the first time I ever understood how lucky, and I hate to use the word privileged, but privileged I was being a New Yorker, because as a New Yorker or in a big city, you go to a comic shop and they have all the comic books that came out that week.
Yeah.
You go to a little rinky-dinky shop, they don't have Moon Knight and Jonah Hex,
No.
They have Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, Hulk, whatever.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. So I remember walking in and going, wait, and they're like, what are you talking about? Oh, you would have to order those if you were a subscriber here at the store, kind of thing. And then of course they do gaming on this day and Funko Pops. And I get it. I've always thought that the modern comic shop should be a comic shop that is comics, is a laundromat, and serves coffee and beer. But anyway,
totally. Yeah.
And you do in 24 hours, open 24 hours. Anyway, so going back, and I look at the comic shop and I noticed there was a lot of Dick Giordano art, like ink, sign. And I think I got like a Teen Titans page that he had inked of Perez for like $100 or something that I gave to Josh Neufeld because he's such a fan. But I asked the guy, he's like, oh yeah, Dick lives down the block. He lives here.
Wow.
And I didn't realize, I guess he'd moved to Florida, lived near, and that was the comic shop he went to, and I guess would just give them art or sell them art or whatever, or maybe it was for whatever kind of a thing. I never met the man, I don't think. Who am I thinking of? Joe Orlando?
Yeah.
Joe Orlando was one of the first editors I ever met at DC after I got hired to do a bonus book.
Oh, right. That would have been Joe. Yeah.
And Joe, what a guy. Like, I know Howard Chaykin cites him as one of his 5 people who have, taught him comics or whatever. And of course, he comes from EC era, Joe Orlando. And he drew that famous backup to Watchmen. But I remember just like, and I remember he was just like, and I know I just went from Giordano to Orlando, but I felt like I may have in passing, met a Dick Giordano around the same office time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think when that was. Was that late 80s?
Yeah, it would have been like Dick was there from like 83 to 80. No, to 90. He was there from 83 to like 91, maybe somewhere along in there.
But you
maybe
never
a little later.
Worked for Charlton, did you?
No.
Because to me, that story is so fascinating.
Yeah.
The Charlton era.
That they would just crank out. It was just product. It was just like cranking out.
No, but it was one space.
It's right. It was all
office,
one
building.
building.
The printing and the distribution trucks, and it was like kind of mafia, a little bit, And
you start at one end of the building with a script, and you end up at the other end of the building with it spitting out comic books. Exactly.
Right. Which is such a great idea.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. I would just assume it like Wally Wood was crazy, and it just worked the way it worked.
Well, there was Dick Giordano, who was running the joint at some point, and that's how you got a Steve Ditko and probably a Wally Wood and all that. And I remember picking up those comics. There'd be 3 in a bag at a store, whatever the Walmart it was back in the day. And I remember like the cover was smaller than the interior pages. So the
Yeah.
interior pages stuck out a little bit and it was like frayed.
The
It was like this,
your ragged trim. Yeah, exactly.
ragged trim. And I was like, it didn't occur to me that that could be a stylistic choice or an economical choice, or these just cheaply printed comics, So, and I remember like the cover would rub off on your finger too. Like
yeah. Now you know it was cheap. That's what
that's how you knew it was cheap.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. But now as an older man, I'm like, oh God, I want a comic book that looks like that today.
Yeah, I know.
Let's make those comics,
I know.
So but so what is like your routine on a daily basis? How many comics are you writing this month?
4.5, 5, maybe. It's insane. This month is a terrible example because everything just it's like a 12-car pileup because of the schedule. Because what happens is, and Vito, of this phenomenon that no artist is doing 12 unless you're Dan Moore, and nobody's doing 12 issues a year. So that means that I have to write issue 46 for this guy, but 48 and 49, he's taken off. So let me go ahead and write 48 and 49. But then the guy who did 46 comes back, but I've only written 49 and now he's going to start with 51. So he's ahead of schedule, but he also needs script because otherwise he's got nothing to do. So that's
you're working like 5 months ahead or so.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the nightmare I'm in right now. Like right now, on my desktop computer, on the desktop on my computer, I have a 15-page. All of this is in the middle of these. I have a 15-page story for Dan Moore for World's Finest, a 15-page story for Adrian Gutierrez for World's Finest, a 20-page story for Skylar Patridge for Action Comics, and a 20-page Justice League story for Clayton Henry. And all of them are in mid-story. Yeah. Like every one of them. And I'm just and I hate being in that place, but that's where I am. So I can, I just got to bounce back and forth because the most important thing for me is I got to keep the artist fed.
Is that typical of the middle of the month? Because we're on the 15th. So is that typical of the middle of the month for you? Like
this one's really this is a situation that's really atypical. Like it'll happen on one book, but the fact that it happened on every single book I'm doing all at once around Christmas time, that's what broke me too. I hit burnout. I hit serious burnout right before Christmas. I mean, total burnout. And I didn't do anything over the holidays. I could have caught up. I could have done something to make my life easier now, but I was completely burned out. Again, this is a good problem to have. I shouldn't be complaining.
And you describe it as, it's funny, when you were describing running the Stand By Me running on the train tracks.
Yeah.
And then I consider, oh yeah, he wrote The Flash. That makes total sense. That he wrote The Flash. Just right. So, but yeah, like it seems like, I don't know. I mean, your process is your process. I think that goes for all of us. But I don't know that, any one person thrives on challenges more so than another. But I feel like, it doesn't come out. It doesn't show in the work. Like when it almost seems effortless when you know what I mean? Like, Justice League Unlimited and World's Finest. I don't see how, like I can tell, just by talking to you, you're at wit's end. But like when you read the finished product, it just comes out. I mean, and that's teamwork. That's from, editors and everything. So I'm sure it's not just on your shoulders, but like you make it look easy, man.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It is.
That's part of the job, isn't it? To make it look like to be in a letter that's invisible, kind of a thing. Like you're supposed to be like, oh yeah, we just cranked this out. I don't understand Dan Mora how he does it, and there's no one knows the answer, right?
Well, hey, man, it's the same way.
Right. It's 3 pages a day.
I don't know how he does it.
And he's doing his own photo reference. I've seen him, or maybe that's Jorge. Like takes pictures of himself.
It's incredible.
Well, he's a superhero, Jorge, right? Like he looks like
a
He does.
Dan, my favorite story about Dan is, and this is the God's honest truth, he sends me thumbnails every morning just to make sure that whatever he's working on today, there's no translation problems or whatever. And he's always bang on, right?
Right.
8:12 in the morning, he sends me a layout. 8:20, I write him back and say, looks great. 10:16, the full inked page.
Come on.
The last week, he's been doing 3 pages a week on Justice League, trying to catch up. Like 3 pages. And not like over, he's not like 24 hours. He's got kids.
Yeah,
Modern day Jack Kirby. Only Jack had that kind of, maybe Walt too. Had that kind of output.
But they were penciling. I mean,
Yeah,
he's inking too.
He must
So
be working digitally, right? That's not pen and ink
yeah,
on paper.
no,
Okay,
it's not.
so
It's total digital. Yeah,
it's got to be digital. So he's not selling
that
like
helps.
original art or anything. So
No, which is a shame because he could make $1 billion doing
he
that.
would kill with that artwork. I mean, he recommends. I mean, I can't do anything digitally, and I haven't even attempted.
Yeah.
Can we veer real quick? I don't know how much more time you can give us. We usually
I got about 15 minutes. Is that okay?
like 15.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
So, Vito, I don't know if you had any hot topics, and I don't know if this is a hot topic that we even want to like talk about, but there was a guy, I don't know this guy, named Patrick Kinlan, and he apparently was telling comic creators to stop snitching.
I saw that today. I don't know what that's about. Yeah.
So I didn't really read it, but it was like something about he warns about toxic workplace gossip culture, claims a big name comic book writer recently exposed colleagues for their private opinions to higher ups. And he argues that betraying trust for career gain always leads to eventual backlash and retaliation. I know what he's talking about, but also we live in this world of, and God, this is why half the time I don't know why are we on social media is, because everyone has a voice, obviously, and a lot of it's abused, and then we live in something of a cancel culture. So I think I know what he's talking about on one hand, but on the other hand, what do you guys feel about that? Like, what's
I
your
have to
policy?
apologize. I think he heard our conversation where I talked about Chuck Dixon, and I think he's talking about me.
Is that what he's talking about? He's talking about you.
I apologize.
It may be you. I mean, that's that kind of complaint only comes from MAGA. That only comes from people who are saying, well, because the lie, and I've said this over and over again, the lie is that comics don't hire conservatives. That is complete horseshit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That is complete horse. As long as you sound sane,
right,
nobody cares what your politics are. It's when you start, through your work or through your personality, through your interviews or whatever, start talking about, uppity blacks or whatever you're going to talk about.
Right. Yep.
Then that becomes an issue. And that's again, that's not a company thing. It's just as an editor, I don't work with a guy who thinks that, the orange orangutan in the office is a genius, and supports ICE. I don't want to, but if you're good, somebody's going to work with you. It's the complaint. The complaint is from people who have either aged out, let themselves age out, or have not been willing to adapt their storytelling techniques and evolve, and are still doing the same kind of comics they were doing 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're not getting hired. But that would force them to look in the mirror and realize that some of it is their fault.
When you say aged out, do you mean in terms of like they're not writing contemporary stories or not writing for a contemporary audience?
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean old. Right. It's just that they're not writing anything that is relevant to a younger audience. That they're not trying to change up their pitch. They're not trying to come to the table with something new. They're just telling the same kinds of stories they've been telling forever. Right. And but again, that forces them to have to admit that maybe, just maybe, some of the blame is on them, but they don't want to do that. So it's much easier just to blame the companies because they don't hire, Republicans, which is horseshit.
Yeah. What do you do? I mean, maybe you felt like you've repeated yourself, but what do you do to not repeat yourself? What do you do to keep it young, as it were, or relevant and new and fresh? Like, what do you do, like, outside of typing at a computer? Like, what kind of life are you living where you're like stealing from here and there, whatever you want to call it, poaching, and
totally
living?
You can totally call it that.
Sure.
I watch great television. I read good indie comics. That's a big one. Like people who the first ingredient to becoming a has-been is to not keep reading good comics and pay attention to what other people are doing. Every time Patrick Horvath puts out Beneath the Trees, like I'm there. and it gets my mind working in different. I can't point to a specific thing, right? But it gets my mind working in different ways. It's just there are different ways. There's a million different ways to tell a story, and unless I'm paying attention to it. The other thing that helps me enormously, by the way, is that my fiance was a TV producer and is a storyteller. So every time, she hates comics, but she doesn't hate comics. She's never read comics. And but every time we watch a movie, every time we watch a documentary, every time we watch anything, we can then sit down and have a good in-depth conversation for a half an hour about storytelling.
That's great.
And that's what it's all about, man. I want to tell stories that I've never told before. And it is hard, but I know at this point, like I know when I'm cheating and I'm doing something I've kind of done before. And I don't want to do that.
You live on the West Coast too. Like, do you, I don't want to say, do you go out to clubs? Because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But like, do you go to like a bagel store or something like that and just sit and are you one of those people that people watch and like just kind of pick up snippets and stuff like that? Or
no, I live at home. I'm like Bigfoot. Nobody ever sees me. I stay at home.
I don't believe it.
I keep Postmates alive. I keep them in business myself. It's bad. I mean, it was better before COVID, and then COVID made us all stay inside, and everybody else is lamenting the fact they can't go out. And I'm like, so what? This is awesome. Yeah. And I'm still kind of that way. I do think that most of my influence at this point is anything Vince Gilligan does, or just the really good television, really good movies. I don't read as much fiction as I ought to because time. But yeah.
I haven't watched Pluribus yet. Is it as good as everyone says?
So good. It is so good. The
I can't wait.
That's my
great
recommendation then, I guess.
And being able to do 30 minutes without a line of dialogue, and it's still, you're riveted.
It's total storytelling. It's visual. Vince Gilligan and his staff and
understand visual storytelling. Yep,
absolutely, because image is text, as you know. How compartmentalized are you? Are you able to be like, I'm going to turn this off and work on this story and that story?
No.
Or do you have, like you said, post-it, like, oh my God, I have to write this down for,
because that's discipline, and I don't have discipline. That sucks. I mean, this is why I have this life, because I have homework all the time, and I'm never off work, right? I kind of, when I was publisher at Humanoids, that was a brief moment when I could actually just close the office door behind me and leave it for the day, and that was great. I don't have that. I don't have that ability to sit in an office and do a job and be. I can't be like Ralph and Sam, with the time clock,
But you're reminding me that's a part that we didn't talk about. Maybe you can end on this, unless Vito has something else. But like,
I have one last thing, but like,
okay,
I'll close with it. But go ahead.
You were a publisher. You did a web comics. Was it Monkey? No.
Yeah, it's a Thrillbent. Yeah.
Thrillbent. That's right. Thrillbent. Yeah. You, like you said, you were Humanoids. And there is a part of you that I think likes to show run and curate talent and ideas and stories. And how are you scratching that itch these days? Probably not at all.
Not at all, which is a shame. The closest I come is teaching these classes with Howard from time to time, because teaching is just the best way of you having to articulate the things that you do that you take completely for granted and don't even think about. And in articulating them, Denny O'Neil gave me a piece of advice once that I've always loved, which he says, every few years, just go in your toolbox and take half the tools and throw them away. Even if they work, just take those tools and throw them away and make new tools. Like, that's genius.
That's great. That's great. So,
Dick Giordano real quick. So, So 3 days ago, I said Dick was the third guy. So here are the two things that when Dick was editor in chief and he was my boss when I was an editor at DC, here's the two things he's told me that have stuck forever. And I've told this story before. I apologize, but if you've not heard it, here you go. There was one time when I asked him, what was it like working with Neil Adams at advertising agencies? Because they did a ton of advertising work. And I'm like, yes, I get if you're late on Batman, it's not the end of the world. It's just they don't want to bump the story, but it's not but if you're late on an ad campaign, are you fucking kidding me? If you're it's a $1 million ad campaign and you're making them sweat nails trying to get the work out of you, and Dick just laughed and he said, "Yeah, they hated it. They would get our work and they would swear they would never work with us again. And then 6 months later, they wouldn't remember how late it was. They would just remember how good it was."
Oh, wow.
That is a terrible thing to tell a young editor, but it is a great piece of advice for a creative person. So always trying to find that, straddle that line between, yes, you want to honor your deadlines and you want to be a pro and you don't want to get known for being late with stuff. But at the same time, if another day, if you know for a fact one more day is going to take this piece of work from really good to great, take the day. Take the day, even if it means you get flack from your editor, to take the day. Nobody remembers the Watchmen took 15 months to come out.
Right.
Nobody remembers the Dark Knight took like 8.
Yeah.
Dark Knight took like what, 6-7 months to come out. Nobody remembers that.
Right. Hey,
another
Giordano thing.
Yeah, the second piece of advice is one of the books I was editing, and I won't name names on the air, but I am happy to name names off the air.
Right.
One of the books I was editing was written by an older fella. It was Olympic level bad. I mean, it was a terrible comic book, but for some reason, maybe because the characters or whatever, it wasn't the art. For some reason, I enjoyed reading the comic, and I didn't mind editing the book, and I didn't understand what that was all about. I mean, it really is like military grade awful. And I took it to Dick and I said, "Why is this?" And he's looked at me and he said, "Because the writer would write it for free and it shows." Oh, that's so good. If I am not having a good time, you're not going to have a good time. If I am not enthusiastic about every line of dialogue and every panel, if I'm just putting it down just to put it down, the reader will pick up on that. I have to be enthused and you have to be enthused.
That's something that Jonathan Ames would teach and tell me. He said, try to find joy in every sentence if you can.
Yes, in every sentence, exactly. Yeah.
You know? So before you say, I just thought right now when you were talking about, it's almost like talking about legacy, and not that you got many more years, Mark. Come on.
Fingers crossed, man. Okay.
But it just occurred to me, like, if Flash was your Frank Miller, we're going to use Frank Miller here. If Flash was your Daredevil, Frank Miller here. What is your Dark Knight or Sin City?
I don't know. I want to hope that I didn't get there yet. People would say Kingdom Come. I don't want them to say Kingdom Come because that was 30 years ago.
Right.
I don't want to be Orson Welles, having to face the fact that you made your greatest thing when you were 25 years old and you'll never do better. I don't want to be that.
No, I feel you on that, but I had that conversation yesterday with somebody. They named it, they did the same feeling about, like, you don't want to be an Orson Welles. And I was like, yeah, but he got to be Orson Welles early, right? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
Like, he scared the world through a radio show.
Yeah.
Then there's Citizen Kane, where he changed cinema, with the cinematographer
forever. Yeah.
Then he did it 10 years later again with Touch of Evil. Sorry, I know it was a B movie when it came out.
I'm a huge Wells fan. I'm totally with you on this. Yeah.
Wells, and the thing that I remember seeing it, and I wish I could find this documentary where they asked him, "Why were you so confident and so good so early on?" And he imagined the reason why, because he had a mother that said to him every day, "You're so talented. You're the most beautiful boy. You can do anything you want in the world." And he was told every day by his own mom.
Wow.
And his mom didn't know what he was going to do. She was just giving him boosts every day.
Yeah.
Like, here's some and there's something so important about that, just being able to impress upon somebody and make them feel like they can do anything is important. So, I mean, maybe your Dark Knight in some ways is Kingdom Come, and to me, I just love Sin City so much, and so maybe you're gonna get to it. Yeah, you got time. You got plenty of time.
I got time. I will say that the Lex Luthor book I just did, that Superman Last Days of Lex Luthor I did with Brian Hitch, that's the best thing I ever wrote.
Okay, I got to read that. I got to
full stop. Best thing I ever wrote. But hopefully I can say so far.
And why do you say that? What about it do you think is making you say that?
I felt like first, it was my love letter to Superman. It was it's like, here's everything I want you to know about Superman, and here's everything I want you to know about Lex Luthor, two characters that I really like. Here's everything I want you to know. And it clicked. Like, it was a story. It wasn't just fan service. It wasn't just, it was a story. And I felt like I learned things about these characters as I wrote. And that doesn't always happen.
Wow.
And just on a craft level, it just felt like I was on. Yeah.
You learn from your own story.
That really doesn't happen
great.
very often, Yeah.
Right. That's great.
Maybe great. FF is your Dark Knight. Now that I'm thinking.
Maybe. I mean, or maybe I've not gotten there yet. Let's just hope I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. Can I tell a quick Citizen Kane story before you go on?
Yeah, of course.
This is an awesome story. So I've mentioned her before, Brandy, my fiance.
Yep.
Smart, well-read, like knows pop culture back and forth. Like, she knows all this stuff, right? So she's no dummy. She'd never seen Citizen Kane. So I was able to take her to the Aero Theater, which plays like those old movies every once in a while. So she saw it on the big screen, my favorite movie of all time. And she was so wowed. And she came out like stunned, like even more than I thought she would be. And we're walking down the street, and she was talking about the things that just blew her mind. And then she said, and Rosebud was the sled. Oh my God. And I burst out laughing. And at first she thought I was laughing at her. And I'm like, no. I so envy you. Yeah. How can you be the only person in the world who didn't know that Rosebud was the sled? And I'm not mocking you. I am envious. I know. Can you imagine being able to be surprised like that today?
That's incredible. I did a short film where someone's trying to not be spoiled by they've only seen Star Wars.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. It was a good little film. Yeah.
And then it's like, and then the woman is like, babies being born today know that Darth Vader is right. And so it's the same thing. It's the same. Yeah. Like, how could she not know that? That's incredible.
She worked in Spielberg's office for a while. He has the sled in lucite on the wall. She passed it every day.
That's incredible.
So it was such a great, joyous moment for me, because again, it was incredible. It was not mocking her in the least. It was like, oh God, I wish I were in your shoes. So anyway, that's
good. I love that. That's a great story.
So I'm gonna close it up since we're out of time. But before I do, I wanted to say a couple of things. When Len Wein passed away, I made it a point to reach out to Mark and just tell him how important he was to me.
That was really nice of you. I remember that. Thank you.
And I want to do it again, only because there are things that I probably didn't say then that I should have said, but I'm going to say them now, because at least this will be forever. It's on the internet. Right. So everything. You were talking, Dean, earlier about working on the Fox with Mark, kind of, I forget the term you used, but like it kind of like we recommended you and kind of was a
sanction. It's working with
sanction. Yeah.
And that happened to me as well. A couple of years ago, I did, as you know, Dean, the 100 Characters Challenge. And after I did that, I put them in the public domain. And it was because of Mark's Keystone address at the not the Ringos, but the Harveys, I think that year.
Yeah.
Where Mark said, culture is more important than copyright. And I've held that to me.
Thank you.
Almost like a personal mantra, for all these years. And when I did that, Mark actually, went out and said, this is, great that you did this, you're doing the right thing, kid, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was launching the first Stray Kickstarter, I reached out to Mark just for a quote. He goes, "This looks great. I'm going to back it." And I'm like,
yeah, sure.
How? This is like, Mark, you are one of the most important influences, and the fact that I get to talk to you is so. I don't think I could put a value on it. To the point that my wife the other day, she was just out of the blue. She goes, "I'm going to play a video for you. Tell me what this is." And she starts playing the video, and I'm like, "Oh, that's Mark." And she's like, "How did you know that?" It's like, I know that guy's voice like nothing. He's the voice in my head. Whenever I write a comic, I think Dean is the artist. Whenever I write a comic, I hope Mark Waid sees it. That's
you're very kind. That's really nice of you to say. Thank you.
One of these days, I know we're 10 years apart in age, but one of these days we're going to work together on something.
Totally.
What it is,
Totally.
I don't know when, but
I still got time. Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
But like Mark, I absolutely adore you. I think the world of you. I think the world of your friendship, and I
Thank you.
thank you for coming on and doing this with us.
And I respect and like both you guys a lot. I really appreciate the kind words. What about you, Dean?
Hold on. Wait.
No.
Look,
No.
Let me. Do you have a ring?
I know you love me.
We
love each other.
No, I love you.
I know.
I cherish the fact that we can, at a Comic-Con, go to the side for a minute and talk and have an intimate moment.
And then not talk for a year and then pick up like we just
pick up
like just finish it. Look, it's. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just thought it was funny.
No.
Yeah, but I really appreciate this. It is impossible to know. I look at other people who are influential, like genuinely influential in comics, and I get jealous of them because I don't feel like my work is even remotely influential, because if it was, people would be doing it and they don't. But it's nice that I've at least been able to, it feels nice to know that I've been able to at least influence you in other ways. That's nice to hear. Thank you.
God, it's funny because you're not like, I think about who are those people we're talking about that you're talking about, like, who are influential. Like, I think about, they're really savvy at social media. They did something that was to me, you're not only you're consistent, like every time I read a comic, it's a great comic. And often you surprise me, and it's so rich. So I feel like you're the kind of creator that people take for granted.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
That makes
like you show up, always hit it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
Unless you were like pulling a Neil Adams Batman Odyssey, or doing, or you just went and threw a curveball in a way that like was totally unexpected. Like I think like if you weren't writing comics, I think comics would know. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's really not. That's the great compliment. That is well said. That's the tombstone right there.
I think the other thing too is that, and I think Dean, you can speak to this as well. It's more than just your comics writing. It's more than just the books you've edited or published or anything. You are a really fantastic person. Like being able to go up to your table at a convention, whether you're busy or not, and just say hi, and like you stop and you just like will talk to me about whatever, and then just like go about our day, just like you were saying, like, and we catch up like a year later and we're in the same spot. I've learned a lot by watching you and how you deal with people as well. And I think you are you're like a bar that's been set, and I value your friendship so much, because like I learned so, and I've called you a mentor, and you're like, I've never actually taught you anything. And I'm like, you don't know what you've taught me.
Right. That is really nice. All right, I'm going to put this on loop.
It'll be
behind me every day.
It'll be on YouTube Monday morning. So I mean, you can play it as much and often as you want.
And Mark, I know that people don't know what don't understand what I'm about to say, but I do hope we get to do our crush.
Yeah, me too.
Or something like that someday.
I'm saving that. Believe me, every once in a while I think a story that starts to go that way, and I'm like, no. We're saving that one. So yeah.
And if it happens, it happens. I get it. Like if you use whatever, but hopefully someday, maybe that'll be our Dark Knight, or since
Thor Smash was still the best idea you ever had.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And someday I will convince them to let us do Thor Smash.
Let's do that too. Why not? So all right. Well, this is great talking to you, and I love you, and I you give so much. So thank you very much.
Kind. Thank you so much. All right. Now this is the part of the podcast where I sign off, and then you do 5 more minutes of what a genius I am, and then you go away. All right. So I'll be sure to tune in for that part. Okay. Guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I hate having to bounce, but
no,
Dan Moore is waiting for work. So I'm going to go.
I know. All right.
Take care, guys.
Mark. See you later.
Have a good night. Thanks, Mark.
You too.
What a guy.
What a guy.
I again, like everything I said, I feel like I didn't say much, but like everything I asked, I wanted to ask, and like,
I mean, he's one of the, you let someone keep, who was it? Walt Simonson, when he did Ink Pulp the other day, said, just ask me 1 to 4 questions, and that's all you need. I'll give you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like Mark can do that too. I mean, he's he's very versed, but I hope we had some conversational moments, and whatever, he's great, and I'm
Yeah,
glad we got to have him on the show.
I would encourage, if Mark is at a convention and you're going to the convention, seek him out. Find that Captain America Volume 3, Number 3 with the shield getting lost. There's a Flash omnibus, I think, of his work, on the Flash that's available. And clearly, Batman and Robin Year One of the best books of last year. Appointment Comics is what we referred to Mark as a couple of months ago. Like whatever Mark's name is on a comic, it's worth picking up and going to your comic store in the snow, in the rain, or whatever to get. Like one of the absolute best.
And I meant to acknowledge to him, and he knows this because he's involved me in this. When he's a justice matters to him, and I know that there was a Baltimore, and I won't get into the details, where someone was threatening someone online. And I remember him walking up to me saying, "Hey, if this guy shows up, this is what he looks like, or do you know what he looks like, whatever, let me know, because we're going to make sure that he doesn't mess with people here." So I was like, "Mark Waid?"
I remember this. I remember that. I wasn't there.
Oh,
for that conversation, but I remember that convention. I was there at that convention.
That's right.
And then what's funny is, it was 2 years ago. I was there and he wasn't. And I think he was ill or something like that, or whatever the case may be. And I noticed that two of those guys had set up a booth. And I texted Jamal. I was like, "Do I talk to Mark about this?" He goes, "Mark's at home. Let him be." I'm like, "All right, good point. Like, if nobody's don't start, no won't be none." Like that.
But also, and he's been vocal online and in articles. Maybe not as much these days, but he definitely spoke his mind, and that's also very important. So. All right, you feel good, man?
I feel great. Again, much love and thanks to Mark for taking time away from 5 freaking projects. Jesus,
I don't know how he does it.
I couldn't. I mean, I'll do one. I'll do 50 issues of Nightwing, but I cannot do a second book on top of that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Next week we will be talking to my teacher, so to speak, my de facto art teacher, Steve Walker, who's also my collaborator on a book called Pay the Devil. So until then, thank you very much, Dean.
Thank you, Vito.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will talk to you soon. We don't have our sign off yet. We're not going to do the old one because we're in a new year. We're season 2, starting strong. Maybe we should quote like Tribe Called Quest or something like that. Back in the days on the Boulevard of Linden.
I love it. Okay, you should quote one hip hop or rap lyric every time. A new one. All right.
I'll do that every week.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.